Did you or anyone in your campaign have any contact with Russia leading up to or during the campaign? Nothing at all.
That was President Trump nearly 2 years ago, before special counsel Robert Mueller had shown evidence of a pattern of contacts between Trump associates and Russians during the campaign. Joining me now to discuss this is Republican Marco Rubio, a key member of the Senate Intelligence Committee. And Senator Rubio, you heard the president there in January 2017 deny anyone in his campaign had contacts with Russia during the 2016 campaign. But that's not true, is it?
Well, according to what we see on this week filed, no, there's an inconsistency there. That doesn't necessarily mean that people here have a presumption in this country that you have to go out and prove these things. That said, look, I've always wanted there to be the truth. That's what I've said from the very beginning. What we want for this country is all the facts and all the truth. I've always supported the Mueller investigation and continue to do so because I think it's in the best interest of everyone involved, including, by the way, the president on many of these issues. So I think it's important for that work to go and continue to move forward. And once the American people have before them all the facts and information, then we begin to make political judgments about this. The same is true from the intelligence probe that we've conducted in the U.S. Senate. I'm very proud of the work the Intelligence Committee has done. It has not been partisan. In fact, some of the things we've seen released have caused the committee to go back and attempt to re-interview some people to compare to what we saw and have been released by the special prosecutor. And we're going to continue to do our work. So at some point here soon, the American people are going to have before them the report of the U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee, whatever findings the special prosecutor has moving forward, and then we can begin to make some judgments about what needs to happen next.
But Senator, let's just go back to what happened this week. Just to be clear, we now know that at least 5 people in Trump's orbit were receptive to Russian outreach. And those are Michael Cohen, Paul Manafort, Donald Trump Jr., Michael Flynn, George Papadopoulos. Is it really possible at this point to say that's just coincidence?
Well, look, again, people have a right to say that that's what happened, especially when facing criminal charges. That doesn't necessarily make it true. It doesn't make it untrue either. Look, I'm not going to, and there's no way to spin this. This has not been a positive development for the people that are involved in this. But I just think, and we have learned over time, that it is important for all of this to be out there before us, within full context compared to other information, before we begin to make political judgments. And I will tell you, when all that information is out there, no one is more important than our country. No one is held above the law. Everyone should also benefit from what the presumptions the law has. But from a separate topic, the political judgment we want to make, that has a different standard to it. And my position on that will be based on evidence and the information before the American people and us, both on the Intelligence Committee and through these filings. And until that happens, I just think it's important that we not ignore these things, but reserve judgment until we have all of it before us. It may make you feel stronger about how you view it now. But bottom line is, we deserve the full truth on what's happened here.
President Trump already seems to have made up his mind. As you know, he tweeted that these filings show he was totally cleared. Do you believe that?
Well, that obviously is the argument the president will make and those around him. He obviously feels strongly about it. It's about him. I think the rest of us, especially those of us in the position in Congress that we're in, will have to make our own determinations. And we'll have to make our own determinations on the basis of the information before us. Right now, we are still getting bits and pieces. I would concede we have more bits and pieces than we did a couple weeks ago. But I would, before I'm prepared to make a public pronouncement that I'm ready to make judgment on one thing or another, I'd like to have all of the information before us. And I also want us to finish our work on the Senate Intelligence Committee, because I think that'll be a big part of this as well. And that's why I know the position you guys have and the work you need to do in terms of asking tough questions, but we are called upon to make judgments, especially on the Intelligence Committee, and we need more information before we can finish our report.
I just want to talk a little more about the Southern District campaign finance violations that they found. The president had this to say when asked about it yesterday, whether or not he gave Michael Cohen any direction.
Sir, did you direct Michael Cohen to commit any violations of law? No.
So I know you talk about bits and pieces, but this is a pretty big piece. So who do you believe, Senator, the president or the Justice Department?
Oh, I don't know, and neither do you or anyone else.
Even from what you've already read.
Well, again, I don't know who to believe.
The Justice Department very clearly says it.
Right. That's the Justice Department's position, and I'm not questioning the work they've done. They've got someone who now is willing to testify to that fact. The president's saying that that's not true. Now, we don't know what other investigation the Justice Department has to either corroborate it or that they don't have to corroborate it. So, again, that's why I think it's important for all the information to be out here. I'm not going to sit here and say that absolutely didn't happen, because it's possible the Justice Department has additional corroborating evidence. It's also possible they do not. And now you have the testimony of a witness who's facing criminal charges and looking for leniency versus someone who denies that it occurred the way they said it occurred. So that's why I'm telling you, it is important for us to have the full context and all the information before us before we can make final judgments on these issues, because we just don't know what additional information the Justice Department has to either corroborate these charges or not.
Okay, let's move to Paul Manafort. Just last week, Trump refused to take a pardon for Manafort off the table after Rudy Giuliani acknowledged being in touch with Manafort's lawyers. If the president pardoned Trump, is that a red line for you? Would that be obstruction
I think it would
of
be a
justice?
terrible mistake if he did that. I do. I believe it would be a terrible mistake. You know, pardons should be used judiciously. They're used for cases with extraordinary circumstances. And I haven't heard that the White House is thinking about doing it. I know he hasn't ruled it out, but I haven't heard anyone say we're thinking about doing it. I would advise strongly against it. It would be a terrible mistake. I would not be supportive of it. I would be critical of it. I don't believe that any pardons should be used with relation to these particular cases. Frankly, not only does it not pass the smell test, I think it undermines the reason why we have presidential pardons in the first place. And I think, in fact, if something like that were to happen, it could trigger a debate about whether the pardon powers should be amended given these circumstances. So I hope they don't do that. It would be a terrible mistake if they did.
Okay, thanks very much for joining us, Senator Rubio.
Thank you.